Hi everyone, welcome back to SmugMug Live. This is episode 65. Thank you so much for joining us today wherever you are in the world. You are more than welcome. As always, SmugMug Live is brought to you by SmugMug and Flickr. If you're looking for somewhere to store your images online, showcase your images to the world and have an e-commerce solution, then check out everything we have to offer at smugmug.com. If you're looking to be part of an incredible photo community, then check out everything we have to offer at flickr.com. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited about today's show. My guest today, Anya Anti, is someone I've been really looking forward to having on the show today. But before we head over to New York and catch up with Anya, as always, hit that subscribe button for me. Hit that little bell notification. That way you'll be notified whenever we have a new show live here at SmugMug Live. And also get in the chat window today. Get part of the conversation. Let us know what part of the world you're joining from, and if you have any questions, then please post them in the chat window. You can help me by starting your question with the word question, and if you have any questions for Anya today, then I will definitely feed those questions to her and hopefully get some great answers for you. And yeah, I'm so thrilled to have Anya Anti join us today, fine art conceptual photographer, joining us from New York. Hi Anya, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
It's
a little bit cold, but I guess New York is always like that.
A little bit cold. Well, it should be. It's winter. It's meant to be cold just now.
Yeah, right.
I'd be worried if you said it was super hot. Right.
Right. That would be a concern, right?
Yeah. Thank you for joining. It's been a while since we saw each other, so I thought it was about time we got you on the show and had a chat together and let you showcase some of your work and interact with some of the community that we've got joining us today. So whereabouts exactly are you? I said New York, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Brooklyn, to be more specific.
Brooklyn. We have a lot of friends in Brooklyn. It's a very, very popular
place. Well,
place.
Brooklyn is very big.
Yeah.
It's like a separate city.
Yeah, great part of the world. I think, when was the last time I was in Brooklyn? Probably end of 2019 after PPE.
That's probably where everybody were the last time. Yeah. somewhere in the end of 2019.
So let's see.
Yeah, I miss traveling so much.
Oh, don't we all? We're having to travel virtually through live streams and stuff at the moment, but you and I have seen each other all over the world.
Right.
Yeah.
The last time I saw everybody was almost a year ago.
Yeah, in Vegas. Vegas has a lot to answer for. Let's see who's joining us today. We've got some very regular guests joining us today. So we've got James Lafferty joining us from Canyon Lake, California. Mark Harris is joining us from Retouching, New Jersey. John Brown's joining us from Dog Pound in Alberta in Canada. John Gavan is joining us from Wales. Hi, John. I'm assuming that's Wales, UK. Could be. I hope it is. Raymond is joining us from the Netherlands. Mooi, yeah. And Daryl is joining us from Indiana. And Gary Monroe waves from the Canadian snow globe. So Gary's got some snow up in Canada. So yeah, keep those.
That's nice.
Yeah, sorry if I haven't got to you on the chat, but keep those shout outs to yourself coming in the chat window. It's always great to see where you're all joining us from. So I started the show by saying you are a fine art conceptual photographer. Is that the best way to describe what you do?
That's right. That's like a general idea of what I do. And so I specialize, to be more specific, I specialize in on-location surrealistic and conceptual female portraiture.
Wow, okay. And dial into that a little bit. If someone wanted to know what conceptual photography was, how would you describe the conceptual part of it?
Basically, it comes down to having an idea, to some kind of representing an idea in your work. So conceptual means it's not just a fine art portrait, which can be about like a human expression or a human, just like representing a human character. But conceptual is more about an idea that, or storytelling.
Yeah, I was going to say storytelling is a huge part of the work that you create, and I have been a huge fan of the stories you've been telling for many years. And we're delighted, of course, that you showcase those images on your Flickr account. So there's no better way than to describe your images by looking at them, right? That's what we're here to do, is look at amazing images. So as I scroll through your Flickr account gradually, how do you come up with these stories? How does Anya decide this is what the concept's going to be?
Well, it's a complex process, so there's no easy way to like describe the process of coming up with ideas. But I always look for something that is storytelling, something that it may be like clever in a way, and something that is eye-catching, I guess.
Well,
And the process of coming up with idea is always different, but I always look for inspiration in some other work, not only photography, but it can be cinematography, it can be illustrations. I also love a lot, love like installation and contemporary art, so that can like boost my inspiration. But I always try to build my idea around one specific object. It can be like I play with association. I like to play with associations. So I pick one image component. It can be a prop that I'm holding or my subject is holding, or it can be a location. And I try to build my idea around it. It can be an association or, something else.
yeah, it's incredible. Just looking at your work there, I paused at this image. This image was, I think, one of the main inspirations to me wanting to get to know you.
Thank you.
I saw this image, and I can't remember where I came across it. I think someone actually sent it to me at SmugMug and said, "You have to work with Anya."
Yeah, it was all over the internet at some point.
Yeah, it was getting shared all over the place, and when I saw this image, I was absolutely blown away with just the skill of the actual creative process, but also the storytelling was phenomenal. What made you
Thank
come
you.
up with butterflies in my stomach? What was the concept here?
Well, I like dark art, so I tend to be on a little bit on the darker side when I create art. But the main reason behind this artwork is that I was in a little bit of a dark place in my life. So I moved to United States in 2014, and for the first couple of years, I was really struggling. Like it was very hard for me, to move across the ocean because I'm originally from Ukraine. And it's like, moving across the ocean, we didn't have any family here. It was just me and my husband. The language is different, the culture is different, everything is different. And it was just me, my husband, and 2 bags of stuff and my camera, and that's it. So we pretty much started our lives from scratch. And it was really difficult. So I was kind of in a dark place. And butterflies in my stomach is about anxious feeling, right? So some people associate this saying with like falling in love, that you have butterflies in my stomach, but it's not just that. Butterflies in my stomach means an anxious feeling, so it doesn't always mean anxious being in a positive way, like being in love, but it also just being anxious. Then you have this like feeling in your stomach, like you have a butterflies. So for me, it was kind of like a representation of going through that dark period and expressing it in a kind of like dark but beautiful way at the same time. And for me, it was more like a metaphor of releasing my inner bugs, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting, this image, because it does have this balance between dark and dark side and the beauty side of it. I have a very young daughter who loves this image, absolutely adores this image, and regularly asks me to show her the image with the butterflies. And when I said to her, you realize this is someone also tearing their stomach apart, as you know, and part of it there's a dark concept to it. And she's like, no, it's so beautiful, I love it. So it can definitely be interpreted in a few ways, and I guess that happens to a lot of conceptual storytelling photography, is it can be interpreted by the viewer very differently, and by depending on who's viewing it. Do you like that aspect of people interpreting your own work?
Yeah, I do. That's why I don't always have a specific author statement to each of my artworks. So I leave it open to the viewer to interpret. But I always try to make it as how do I say it? Like as self expressing as possible, I guess. So I try to make it as obvious as possible as I wanted to present to the viewer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I leave it open, so there's not always like a description what I wanted to say with my image, or there's not even a title always, but I try to make it as okay.
So you try and make it kind of obvious to you, you know, what the concept is, but you are open to some
Right, but
interpretation.
I always open. I leave it open. So yeah.
That's good, because I did notice that
So
a
for
lot.
example, I have this artwork where I have my subject standing in front of the heart installation, and she's holding a little heart, and she has like pieces, and the artwork is called Pieces of My Heart. So I didn't really have a specific like explanation and author statement behind this artwork. I just thought it was really interesting and fun, like play and association with like a giant heart installation, and my subject having all these little pieces of little hearts. And I remember one person told me, "Oh, that's probably, you know, she's probably this one." Maybe like her heart is broken, that's why she has all these little hearts lying on the ground and she's holding one. And I'm like, yeah, that's one of the ways to explain it. Or maybe she have all these pieces that she's willing to give to someone, you know. So there's going to be like multiple explanations to that.
Yeah. Or maybe she broke someone's heart and she's crushing it as she walks away,
Right.
you know?
That can be too, right? So like I said, I leave it open.
Yeah, I do love that, you know, and I love how photography can be, well, all art forms can be interpreted. And, you know, we've been through a very tough year, and it definitely makes you look at things perhaps differently due to the circumstances you're in. And I'm sure everybody will interpret those images very differently depending on their own circumstances. But yeah, I did love this. I love all your images, so you know we'll get
Thank you.
we'll get that statement out now. I love all your images, so I'm going to say that a lot today. We're already getting some questions in, so
Okay, sure. Let's answer them.
yeah, let's get to those questions. But I want to let the people watching know that not only are we going to look at some of Anya's work today and have a chat with her and answer some of your questions, but Anya is also going to deconstruct some of her images in Photoshop for us and give us a sneak behind the curtains, a peek behind the curtains of what it takes to create some of these images. So stick around for that. It's going to be really exciting. I think you might even have that butterfly one there, yeah?
Yes, maybe.
Get,
You'll know. You'll know later.
Should get my daughter in to watch it while you deconstruct it. She can watch it later. So let's go over to some of the questions. So Raymond, if I remember, was in the Netherlands, and he asks, are you inspired by certain painters like the Surrealists?
No, not really. I don't have like certain, I guess, like artists that I'm inspired. I mean, I've always been a fan of like fantasy and fairy tales, and I'm a huge fan of Tim Burton's work. Like it's like kind of like my way of seeing my artwork. It's dark and it's beautiful and kind in the same time. So I guess this is my vibe that I'm trying to um, like achieve in my work. So I've been influenced by many things, I guess. It's not just one specific painter or one specific illustrator. It's a mix of different inspiration and influences from my life.
Yeah, lots of inspirations. Another question, let me see if I can find it. Michael Bailey asks, do you sketch or doodle your ideas before starting any photography or Photoshop work?
Yes, I do. Not 100% times, but pretty often. Pretty often I do sketch, usually do it in Photoshop, and it's very convenient. First, like I always talk about it in my talks and like workshops that um, I highly recommend to starting your planning your work, your photo shoot or your whatever it is, with visualizing. So drawing sketches is can be one of the ways to visualize your idea. First of all, it helps you to understand better what you want to show, to create. It helps you to understand what things you need to achieve that. Maybe you need a specific prop, or you need something to build your composite if you're compositing. And it also very helpful when you work with the team. It's really helpful to show them, like, help understand your vision. Because when you explain to your like makeup artist or your model or whoever it is, like, I want this and that, but when you doodle something, and it can be, just simple sticks and circles and crosses, and you can just put notes, it can really help them understand what you want to achieve.
Yeah, I'm a terrible drawer. I'm
You
a
don't have to be,
yeah,
yeah, like,
I'm a failed artist, and that's why I took up photography, because I couldn't draw. I think many of us can relate
can
to
relate.
being to want to be a great drawer, but our creative outlet was photography. And many times with work that I've created, tried to draw it out beforehand. I thought, no, I'm wasting my time. Let's just go build it and
I've
photograph it.
seen other photographers like sketches in a notepad, and it's just like literally doodles. Like a person is just circling and sticks, and then there's like note. This is the person, this is my subject. This is that. If you can't really draw them, that's okay. It's just whatever helps you to visualize your idea.
Yeah, indeed. Interesting. John Gavin from Wales, which he confirmed was Wales in the UK, said, "What have any movies influenced your work?" There's a movie like Quality, but you did say Tim Burton there. And then Scott said, "What's your favourite Tim Burton movie?"
I mean, I'm not like biggest fan of Tim Burton in the world. He's not like the only person I admire. Obviously, he's not the only artist that I like, but I think he definitely influenced my work. Like I said, I love the mix of dark and beautiful. And my favorite, mm, I don't know, maybe Corpse Bride, like the cartoon. I really love it.
Yeah,
And I love the aesthetics and everything like in it.
cool. Thank you for answering those questions. And yeah, keep your questions coming. It's great getting those questions in so early. Normally the questions come rushing in at the end, but people are desperate to know more already. Scrolling through, there was a question here. I'm not going to bring it up because you might not want to reveal all of this. But someone asked, "Is photography your full-time career? Is this how you make your living?"
Uh, not like I'm not like a full, but yeah, it does, but not like full time. I would say I also do retouching, but I guess it's really connected.
Yeah, I mean, you're a creative artist as a living. You don't have a job in a coffee shop or something like
No,
that.
no, I do a lot of I work as a freelance retoucher
Yeah, there's
as well.
a lot of amazing people use Anya for her retouching skills, and you are very sought after within the community to retouch other people's work. I know that for sure. But yeah, your life is a full-time creative, and you have what talk us a little bit about the business. What other revenue streams do you have in your career? So you've got retouching, which people pay you to retouch their work.
Yes,
How
yes.
do you make revenue? Sorry to be so blunt, but how do you make revenue from the work that you create?
So I do speaking, I do teaching, That's what I enjoy. I really like it. I mean, pre-COVID, obviously, but I really hope we will get back to that. What else? A little bit here and there, like I sell presets, Lightroom presets on my website. I really want to get into selling prints more seriously, not just like mass production, but more like high-end gallery quality. But I still need to research that. What else? I sometimes license my work for like book covers and other things like this. That one, the butterflies in my stomachs, was a license for a company that offers mental health like counseling. So they license it for their advertising.
Cool. And do commission work? Do people commission you to take their photographs as well?
I do, but I don't have a lot of requests for that. I usually people like reach out to me and I tell them I send them the breakdown of like how much it's going to cost, and it usually scares them off.
Is that you trying to deliberately scare them off because you don't want to do it?
No, I just try to value my work. Like I don't think it's like too expensive, but like considering all the work that I do, like all the props, all the preparation, all the editing that goes into my work, I think it's justified. But I of course I understand if it's just a person who wants their picture taken, that might be too expensive.
Yeah. So how did you get into the world of retouching, Photoshop, compositing? Is Photoshop something you've always done? Did you study that? How did that journey start for Anya?
That's actually interesting because I started learning Photoshop even before I got into photography. I remember I got my first digital camera, one of those little ones that like look like a soap holder. And I just wanted my pictures to look better, like remove blemishes and like under eye bags. I just wanted, do some retouching to make my pictures look better. And so that's how I started learning Photoshop. And I've always been a creative person. Like when I was a kid, I was good in paintings and crafts. And when I was still in university, I was trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. So one of the ideas was to become either a designer or like a web designer, something like that. So that's why I started learning Photoshop more in depth. But then I realized that maybe that's not my thing. So I got into photography. And when I got into photography, for a while, maybe like for the first year, I was like looking for my genre. I was experimenting, like I was taking, probably like everybody, I was taking pictures, of like city landscapes, some still life, like my cat, my friends, everything, a little bit here, a little bit there. So I was trying to figure out what's my style, what I want to shoot. I never actually considered portraiture for some reason, but then I got into portraiture. And I remember that I always wanted to do something beyond just simple portraits. So I wanted to create something beyond that. I wanted to bring like an atmosphere, maybe, or a story, or create something that would be more than, just a simple portrait. Because for me, it seemed a little bit boring just to take pictures of people. So I started experimenting with different shooting techniques. Like I was trying like freelancing, when you take off your lens from your body, from the camera body, and you tilt it, kind of like doing a tilt shift effect. It's called freelancing.
Yep, freelancing.
I
Yeah.
was experimenting with different vintage lenses, they have like their own, character. They have their own imperfections, but I saw it as a artistic way of shooting, I guess. I still do. I still actually love vintage lenses and I still shoot with them because I love those imperfections kind of create that dreamy effect on my images. And of course, then I started to implement more props and costumes, and obviously Photoshop. Like the Photoshop was a big part of my work from pretty much from the beginning. So actually, the one that you see behind me, this is one of my first kind of like this fairy tale conceptual fine art that which became a hallmark of my work. This one was made in 2012. So yeah, it's like already, I still have it in my portfolio. I still love it. So this one, like since then, I began creating this type of work.
That's cool. And you said you were studying at university. Was that in the Ukraine?
Yes. Everything I did in Ukraine. I started photography 10 years ago. It began in Ukraine, and I'm also self-taught. Like I learned Photoshop with trial and error, just sitting in my front of my computer, analyzing other people's work and trying to figure out how they did certain things. And back then, it was like 2009, I think I picked up my camera for the first time. And I remember, like, right now, there's so many amazing resources where you can learn, so many online courses and workshop, so much you can learn from the internet. But back then, first of all, I had dial-up internet. So that was a lot of fun,
Yeah.
downloading something like a tutorial. And there was not that much of, you know, information. Like it was just scraps that I could read an article on some forum, or they were not even, I don't remember even having like video tutorials. I think Linda was one of the first ones that offered like video something.
Yeah, I mean, 2009, it doesn't feel like that long ago, but you have to, yeah, when you think back about it, the amount of content that's available just now, is just overwhelming. Sometimes there's so much of
Right.
it, but, only a few years ago, it was not the case. It really was quite sparse. You mentioned there about using vintage and classic lenses, which is something I've always found really interesting in your work. How do you go about sourcing those lenses, making them work with your gear? It adds a level of complication that many of us would be trying to avoid.
I'm like the opposite. I love that. I remember the reason why I started shooting with them because I didn't have any money, so I could not afford a fast lens, like the original fast lens,
Yeah.
and they were available in my country, like from Soviet Union. They were like dirt cheap. You could buy like 50 millimeter fast lens for, I don't know, like $30, and you could buy them on a flea market. And when I started shooting with them, I fell in love. I love the bokeh, like the swirly bokeh of
Yep.
Helios lenses. I'm still a huge fan of that. And for me, it was not an issue. Like I, people did that back there. I don't know if they still do that. If they still shoot with manual vintage lenses, but there were like topics people discussing how can I attach an old lens to my DSLR camera, and you could buy like adapter rings.
Yep.
And I have a little collection of those lenses. I have like 3 or 4 of them, Helios lenses. They were manufactured in Soviet Union, something like in 70s or 80s. And I remember one of them, my most favorite one, which is 50 millimeter 1.8, I think, because most of them are f2. So 1.8 was like a big deal
Yeah.
because the,
The
the the
Holy
more
Grail.
open the aperture, the like this the swirlier the bokeh.
Yeah.
And I remember I found an article online how you can actually because another issue was that I shoot with Nikon,
Hmm.
and they have different how do you call it, the lens,
Mounting bracket.
the distance from the sensor
Uh,
to the
the focal plane
um,
length. Yeah.
yeah, so it's different. So on Canon it was not an issue. You could just buy an adapter and attach it, and you would have the ability to focus to the infinity. But on Nikon it was different, so you could
Yeah.
not focus to the infinity. You had only like a couple of meters to be able to focus, so it was like a close-up portrait at best.
Yeah.
So people would sell adapters with like additional lens, but it would lower the quality and other things. So I found an article online where you can actually rebuild one of those lenses, take the bayonet ring off and replace it with that adapter. So my father helped me. He did that. He reconstructed it, and did some filing and whatever.
That's so cool. That's
And
way beyond what most of
right.
us, way beyond what most of us are willing to do for a photograph.
So
But
now
yeah,
this lens, it has Nikon bayonet, and it has the infinity focusing. So
that's cool. That's cool. I know a lot of people are keen to try and find old, Soviet lenses and these old classic lenses. You were in the perfect part of the world to track them down, it seems. So yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
that's great to hear, and I love the fact you've been modding them as well to make it work. I guess most of us had it easy.
They are also tricky. Like you need to be really, like you need to be a fan. You need to be really loving shooting with them, because they're old lenses. They have aberrations. They work. They don't do well with like backlight and side light. They have all these flares all the time. They only sharp in the middle of the frame, so outside of the center it's all like soft and blurry.
Yeah,
You really need to be digging that. So I did. I loved it. It helped me create that interesting artistic effect. And
that's
it's
sweet.
also really slow because you have to manually focus. There's no autofocus. There's no electronics in it. It's a piece of metal and glass.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. Listen, folks, keep your questions coming. I see a few questions in there. We'll get to them momentarily. I want to switch directions a little bit. And we want to showcase more images, right? We're here to look at images. So before we get to you showing us some of your Photoshop work with deconstructing some of these images, I want to go to, you have this album in your Flickr account of your latest project, which is
Yes.
called 2.5 seconds, a project that I absolutely love, not just the imagery, but the concept of it. But perhaps you could give us a kind of synopsis of what the 2.5 seconds project is around.
Of course. So yes, I would absolutely love to talk about it. That's something I'm very proud. And I had this idea of making a project. It kind of like started a few years ago. I think it's been 4 or 5 years since I had this idea of making this project. First of all, it started all with my love to nature. I absolutely love traveling. I love nature. And also began with an idea that yes, my work is beautiful. Yes, people love it. Yes, it can be interesting and maybe clever sometimes, but I really wanted to, um, how do I put this? Not just shoot pretty girls in pretty location, but actually give something meaningful to my work, to use my voice and my platform to share something more important, to share a message with my audience, with my following. So I thought, what is it that I care the most about? And it was obvious. I care about the planet. I care about the environment. I care about the direction that our planet is going to, which is not very optimistic, unfortunately. And I decided to make a project about climate change awareness, to bring more awareness to this problem. And I thought that Iceland would be a perfect place to shoot that. So the idea was to go to Iceland, to spend some time there, and to shoot this project. So the idea behind it is to uh, do a series of artworks. Each one would represent a specific environmental issue using metaphors and costumes and locations. So each concept represents specific climate change, environmental issue. So if you um, uh, move your mouse cursor to the image, it shows the name
Yep.
of each photograph and the description, like what's the issue is about, what's the problem. And I came up with this name of the project, which is 2.5 seconds. So it's very interesting because the earth is 4.5 something billion years old, and modern human history, modern mankind is only 140,000 years old, something like that. So if we compress um, the age of our planet, which is 4.5 billion years old, into 24-hour day, then modern humanity only existed for 2.5 seconds. And within that period, we've been able to burn fossil fuels, create huge concentrations of CO2, destroy forests, destroy ecosystems, make some animal species disappear, create an island of garbage in the Pacific the size of state Texas, all these different problems. It took the evolution, it took 4 billion years of evolution for us to be here, and it took us only 2.5 seconds of perspective to starting to destroy everything.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to use the power of that number to create this impact, the wow effect of wow, if you think about it, like it's 24 hours and we've been here for only like 3 seconds.
Yeah, it's a nice way to condense it to make it a somewhat round number that we can that isn't as abstract as billions and billions of years. I mean, we can we can all relate to 24 hours, and to think that we've only been here for 2.5 seconds of a day, it really does help us relate to those images. So I love what you're doing with the project. Obviously, it's super important message. I love the concept of the 2.5 seconds, but then when it comes to the photography, it's so great to see the concepts come to fruition in these incredible images. Let's go through some of them, and you can talk about.
Let's do that.
Give us a little brief insight into each of these images and how it came together in your head and was executed.
So it took me almost a year of preparation, of developing concepts, of finding sponsors and things like that, finding a model, all the props and everything. So I really wanted to shoot it in Iceland, first of all, because this is my favorite place on earth. I absolutely love Iceland. I've been there 4 times. And also it's so diverse, like the landscapes are so diverse that it offered location for all my concept. And the first one that you see on the screen, kind of like, I guess it's my favorite from the project, and I want it to be a self-portrait, kind of like representing me sharing this important message with the audience. And it's called global warming. So it represents the warming of the globe, and you can see that I'm holding an earth prop and it's melting. So all the continents and oceans are dripping down, and it's like it's melting.
Yeah, it's really great. I love that one.
This one called sea level rise. So it's representing the problem of melting ice caps, and because of that, they melting. So they add more fresh water into the oceans. That's why the sea level rises, and it creates a huge issue for communities that live on the shorelines, which we can see in Florida right now. Like they drowning in water, which is already happening. So it represents the.
Sorry, were these models photographed in Iceland?
Yes, it's all been shot in Iceland, all on real locations with a little bit of Photoshop magic and props.
Sure. Yeah. How did you source all the models? You said you took a year to prepare for this. I guess that was a big part of it, was finding the
it was just 4 of us there. It was me, my husband, who was a driver and assistant, and he also shot all the behind the scenes. He was our cameraman. Then it was this girl that you see on the picture. It's my model. So it was her and me. Like some of them are self-portraits and some of them are her in the picture. So she's my muse. And the 4th person was her friend who's just helping out.
Great.
So it's basically just 2 of us. This is a self-portrait. This is me. Yep. This one called greenhouse gases. So represents obviously the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere that create a greenhouse effect, which warms the planet. So in Iceland, there's this locations with sulfur fumaroles, and a hot, stinkiest steam comes out of the ground, and this is how it actually looks like. So I thought it was perfect to shoot this idea over there, and I'm holding planet in a plastic bag, which again, plastic bag represents the layer of those gases that trap CO2 and warm the planet.
And this plant is suffocating in there.
Right, exactly.
This is beautiful.
This
I know there's a strong
one,
message, but it's beautiful.
thank you. Yes, this one is not really a part of the series, but it was shot during that trip. It's beautiful. I really love it, but it's a little bit less conceptual. So I kind of include it in the series, but at the same time, it's not really part of a series. But I call it a beauty of a dying glacier because I'm standing in the front of the glacier lagoon in Iceland, which, if you read the description, it started to form in the beginning of 20th century, I think, like in 30s. So before that, there was no lagoon over there. But because the glacier started to melt, it formed the lagoon, and pieces of ice chunks of those icebergs, they started to, fall off the glacier and float, which created the most beautiful and amazing and unique nature
landscape.
event. But at the same time, it's kind of sad realizing why it's there, because the glacier is melting.
We'll go there and
dying,
see it as something beautiful. Look at this lagoon and the icebergs and stuff, but actually it'd be better if it wasn't there.
Right.
So yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Okay.
So this one I called pollution. So if you see, she's breathing with a gas mask, and there's a plant inside of it, kind of like a funny metaphor of clear air. And I specifically wanted to shoot in a location which is like bare and alien and more like another planet with no plants, and to create that kind of like cold and alien landscape.
Great concept. Deforestation.
Yes, this one is called deforestation. I love it. So the idea is obvious, deforestation, and I made the dress out of old gown that I bought in a thrift store, secondhand, and I covered it with a roll. Like I bought rolls of moss in an arts and crafts store, and I sewed them on top of the dress, kind of like creating the moss dress. And so yeah, and I created this kind of like burnt, dead piece of that to represent the deforestation, the problem of destroying the forests. This one is glacier melt. Yeah. So again, this is one of my favorite artworks from the project. So this is the location, again, in Iceland. All the locations that you see are real, like they actually exist in Iceland. This is the Diamond Beach. The lagoon that I was just talking about, some pieces of, so the lagoon goes into the ocean, and some of the ice chunks, they float into the ocean, but the waves bring them back ashore. And because the Iceland is a volcanic island, all the sand on its beaches is black. So when those ice cubes come back to the black beach, they look like diamonds, because they're white. So they call it Diamond Beach, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I thought it would be perfect to shoot this concept. And the subject represents glacier that is melting. You can see like little drops. So she's melting.
Yeah, I love the contrast in this image. You've got all these high key elements of the iceberg and your model and the dress and stuff, and then against that black volcanic sand, it's just,
and you can see a little bit of water in the bottom. So she's melting.
She's creating her own lagoon.
Yeah. This is plastic pollution. So if you look a little bit closer, the jellyfish is made of recycled plastic. So I collected all the trash before the trip, and I used an old umbrella to create the jellyfish. And you can see like plastic bottles creating this trail around her. So it's pretty straightforward. It's plastic pollution. It's this huge issue right now. It's destroying our oceans and marine life.
Yeah, great image.
Same concept, but a little bit different interpretation. So some scientists speculate that by 2050 there will be more plastic by mass than fish in our ocean, because we create so much plastic. Yeah. So she's fishing, but there's no fish, there's just plastic.
And then I think this is the last one at the moment in the series, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. This is extreme weather. So the idea is that the changing climate creates more unpredictable and extreme weather patterns, like heavy rainfalls, hurricanes, things like that. Also, droughts that create wildfires. And the idea behind this concept is that it's raining and she's holding an umbrella, but the rain still falls on her, so there's no way to hide from that. Kind of like the concept behind.
Feels like Scotland right now. Can't hide from the rain.
No matter what you do, right?
Yeah. Anya, an absolute incredible series of work.
Thank you.
Is there more to come in the series, or is that the final?
That's it.
Images?
That's it for now. I might continue it in future, but for now, this is the series.
Yeah, I think you'll agree, folks. It's an absolute incredible series of images. You know, show Anya some love. Give her a little thumbs up in that channel if you've enjoyed seeing those images from that series. I think it's great that you're taking your artwork not just to tell stories, but tell probably one of the most important stories.
Yeah, I really hope that I like my message, to get my message out there using my voice as a photographer.
Yeah, I think as artists, that's what a lot of people would hope is the sort of apex of their career, is being able to do good with their message and with their art. Question for you regarding that series. Sure. There's a lot of props there, a lot of very unusual props. You took them all with you to Iceland? It must have been interesting going through customs and flying with all that strange stuff.
It was actually much easier than I thought. Like I had only one the biggest that's allowed to take into the luggage, suitcase full of props. So the other one was just our stuff. But yeah, I was able to crunch everything. Like I was able to squeeze in my moss dress without destroying it. And I didn't have any like question. Right. I didn't have any weird questions from the customs, like what the hell is that?
Imagine if they'd opened your bag. That would have been funny, trying to explain that. Right. Before we get to looking at some of your Photoshop work, let's look at some of these questions. There's a lot there, but let's see if I can find some interesting one here from Gary. He asks, how close is the image in your head to what you end up with, and when do you know that you are done with the concept?
It's to be honest, it's usually pretty close. Like especially when I do sketches, and I do a lot of preparation. Like I think about all the details. It's usually pretty close to what I have in my head. And to know when I'm done, it's a good question. Like I know I'm a perfectionist, probably like a lot of artists, and I always, tweak. Like when people ask me how much time I spend editing, it's a lot, but bulk of that time is just going back and forth and doing tiny tweaks and making it perfect. I guess the moment I realize that there's no more tweaks I can do, that's when I'm done.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Michael Bailey says, a question on the subject of vintage lenses: would you consider using film cameras and older non-digital formats in your work?
I tried that. I tried shooting film, but I didn't like the experience, to be honest, because you cannot see right away what you get. You have to wait to develop the film and then scan it. So for me, it was just too much of a hustle, and especially because my approach to photography is a little bit different from classic photography. I don't just take a picture. I rather collect material. to further create something that is not possible to capture, to create a composite. So when I do a photo shoot, it's and when you take a look at the picture that I took, sometimes it can be really confusing. Like, what did I take a picture of? It can be like different frames, pieces of here and there, and then when I sit in front of my computer, it's actually my happy place, because this is where everything comes together. Everything comes together into a final piece of artwork that you can actually see how it comes into one work.
Yeah. Some of us are old enough not to have had an option and had to shoot in film when we started.
Yeah. No, I love film. I absolutely love it. Like, I remember, I guess that's why all my work is square, because I remember when I first started photography, a lot of people were shooting middle format film, which is like 6x6,
Yep.
Which is square format, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the depth of field was shallow, and the dynamic range was amazing. And because film already had some built-in color profiles, the colors were beautiful, so you didn't have to do a lot of editing. So I really loved it, and I tried to imitate the color at some point, even to throw in some grain and film texture. So I love it. It's just the process is not for me. I prefer computer.
Yeah, it's interesting. Something I was going to mention is these aren't just preview images. All your images are this square format, right? It's something you've adopted, and it's kind of become your style and what you're kind of known for.
Thing, yeah.
Yeah. Does that make it difficult when you're photographing to sort of see the square format?
I actually find it even easier to compose my image into a square, rather than if somebody told me you need to do like standard, 2x3 format, I would probably find it more difficult for me to be able to, make, because I love symmetrical composition. I like central composition. I guess you can see it in my work. So for me, square is something natural.
Yeah. Do you know, there's something I really love about the community that we have as photographers, is we're always willing to be each other's subjects when we're photographing. So a lot of people might recognize one of our previous guests, another great SmugMug ambassador, Renee Robin, in this image. And it's not unusual for us to be in various parts of the world and utilize each other as models, right?
Right, because for me, it's not like I don't really work with models from the agency, like, signed models. I don't care about that. It's not like I'm avoiding them. I just don't think it's necessary. So usually it's either self-portrait or one of my friends. My subject are just people I know. So yeah, that image with Renee we took during one of our trips to Vegas to double PPI in Nelson Ghost Town.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to pull up my stream, because not only is Anya willing to photograph others, but she's also willing to be photographed herself. And this is one of my images of Anya that, again, we photographed in Nelson, just outside Vegas. And it's always a pleasure to work with you and see you photograph, but also take your photograph as well. And this image did really well, and people loved this image. Thank you for letting me photograph you when we can. So yeah, great image. Interesting question here from John Gavin, who says, where do you go and what do you do if you get stuck for ideas?
Oh, that's I guess it's very hot topic for each artist and creator, like this being stuck with no ideas and no motivation. It's hard, to be honest. It's hard to motivate yourself. Usually when I feel like I need to force myself and coming up with the idea, because sometimes there are cases when somebody, let's say, commission you to do artwork for a certain project. I usually like going to website like Pinterest and maybe like Instagram, browse through my favorite artists, and I just brainstorm. I look through a lot of images and just brainstorm. And I always say that inspiration is like a muscle, and you need to exercise it. So if you look for that inspiration, first of all, you need to build up a taste. So you need to, I'm not saying be an expert in art, but building up a taste by looking at art, analyzing art, what's good about it, why people like it, and also helps you to accumulate that experience, that visual experience, that storage of different ideas. And it doesn't necessarily have to be always in your head, but eventually when you go and exercise your inspiration, uh, you will come up with an idea, and it can be triggered by a lot of different things. It can be locations, like unique locations, like in Iceland, often inspire me. It can be a prop that I see somewhere, but I usually go to websites like Pinterest to just browse through a lot of artwork, illustrations, photography, and that helps.
That's great. One last question, and we will jump over to Photoshop and have a little breakdown. Mark was asking, will you publish a book of your work? I'm assuming he's talking about the 2.5 second project.
I haven't thought about it. The idea was, after I finished publishing my project, I would do an exhibition, which is now not an option, unfortunately.
Right.
But maybe as soon as everything is, calmed down and we able to gather again, maybe I will do an exhibition.
Cool. Well, I'm glad we were
But I
able to.
haven't thought about book. Maybe a calendar. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we were able to showcase some of it today. Right. I'm going to ask you to share your screen with me, and we'll have a look at your Photoshop work. While Anya is sharing her screen, just a little shout out to hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell notification. That way you'll be notified whenever we have another episode coming here on the show. And we'd love your support, so thank you for hitting that subscribe button. Right, let's see if Anya's screen is sharing. Yeah. Oh,
yay, butterflies.
My favorite image.
Go get your daughter.
Yeah. I'll show her later.
So yes, it's also interesting. Like, I love showing people before and after and breaking down my stuff, because people tend to think that I Photoshop everything. Like I'm just a composite artist doing everything from scratch, which is absolutely not the case. I always try to shoot as much as possible on set. I always use props. I always travel to real locations. So all the locations that you see, I actually traveled there. And first of all, I feel like making my own props, which most of the time I do myself, or I scout them myself, like I buy them online or rent. First of all, I feel like it helps me be more creative, exploring different mediums, not just photography, but also, like, it's not really installation, but like crafts, doing something with my own hands. And then I'm a huge believer that set design and props make my composites more realistic, help me create them more realistic without huge effort spending on the computer. I like comparing it with a movie production. When people actually use stunts and decorations and things like that with some CGI magic, it looks so much better and different when it's just green screen.
Yeah.
So this is my approach.
Realism.
Yeah, so I'm going to turn off all these layers. And this is the before. It's already been processed in Lightroom, so it's already color corrected.
Yeah.
But as you can see, so it's a self-portrait, if you haven't noticed. The idea was to create this illusion of ripped skin and having my guts open with a skeleton inside. So I actually searched for a real life-size skeleton online. And I remember I was struggling because it was somewhere around spring, so it was way past Halloween. You couldn't find the skeleton anywhere, but I was lucky. I found one. I think I can show you quickly the source images that I shot. Yeah, here you go. Oh, come on. There you go. So I got a real life size plastic skeleton, and I bought these butterflies online. They are not real. They are made from feathers, but they look so realistic. So I actually shot, first of all, I shot myself, and I used a nude colored tank top that I cut a hole inside to imitate the torn skin. And then I shot with the same settings, same setup. My camera was on a tripod, same everything, same position. I shot a plastic skeleton with butterflies attached, and I also put a top on top to kind of like help me imitate the shadows of the gut. And then I shot each single butterflies that you see flying around separately with different distance from the camera to create that depth of field, that depths of different butterflies.
Well, I'm already learning things about this image that I didn't
Yeah.
know, and you're destroying some of the assumptions I had made about this image. So that's incredible already. So I had assumed the butterflies were photoshopped in there, and then blurred to be out of focus and stuff. But you actually photographed them in position.
With different level of blurriness, and it's actually interesting. And you can see little. Oops, sorry, my phone fell. You can see little thumbnails of me shooting like naked pieces of the skin to be able to then to replace the nude top with those pieces. And actually interesting, I remember I was teaching a class about the power of set design when creating composites, and one of the students asked me but asked me this question: why didn't you just use stock image of a butterfly and blur it in Photoshop and create the feeling? I was like, yeah, you can do it, but think about how much time you would spend, first of all, searching for a stock image that would match with the light and color and everything, then putting it, transforming, blurring and everything, instead of just taking a picture and then cutting it out and pasting and just loosely mask around, and that's it. That's all I did.
Yeah, really cool.
Well, maybe some people would consider photoshopping easier rather than going through the trouble of ordering butterflies and then shooting. But first of all, I think it's easier when compositing, and then again, it helps me create more realistic composite with less effort.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love now knowing that those butterflies were actually in the skeleton when you photographed it rather than placed there afterwards. It adds a lot to the image in my mind now that I didn't feel about it before.
Yeah, and that's why I believe that's what makes it good, and also that's why I spend only like 4 or 5 hours in total doing this image, which is not a lot.
Cool. Right, let's see you build this image up now from all these layers.
Yeah. So this is the before, not really the original, but the before. So I did some retouching because I'm not good with facial expressions, and I expanded the hole a little bit. Then goes the skin. Just a disclaimer that I'm just clicking through the layers in their order from bottom to top, but it doesn't mean that I did the composite in the same order. So I didn't necessarily start it with the skin. I'm just breaking down the file.
Yeah. It's worth noting. Yeah, we just asked Anya to kind of break the file down. We're not doing a full workshop here on the step-by-step process. We just want to let people see the kind of build-up of this image.
Yeah, so I replaced nude top with the skin with some, adjustments. Like this file had some adjustment. Then a little bit more retouching, like I removed some flyaway hairs. I don't even remember what this layer does, but it does something, I guess.
Been a while.
Some dodge and burning. Very, very subtle. You can see like on my face.
Yep.
What's that? Color. I added a little bit of blushing on my, bones and joints, and just thought it would be a nice touch. And here goes the skeleton. So I basically, you can see how many layers there is actually like in each folder, in each group. Let me quickly turn them all off. So I started with this piece of a skeleton photo.
Yep.
I masked it. So I masked it. And then here we go. I did some retouching. So I removed the fabric. I removed some, plastic markings. I removed the butterflies. They had some like wires and the rope that they were attached with.
Mm-hmm.
Something like retouching. And then I created shadows with just some curves. Just a lot of shadowing. And then yeah, that's it. So this is the skeleton part.
And I see, like a true professional, you're as good at naming your layers as the rest of us.
I'm feeling a slight tint of sarcasm here.
Yeah,
I'm terrible. The best I can do is name my folders. Groups.
Yeah, you get bonus points for at least having some naming of your folders there.
I do. I try my best to keep some structure, because otherwise it's just a disaster. Look at the number of these layers. And then butterflies. All the butterflies on separate layers.
Yeah, I don't think you need to show us each individual butterfly. That's
cool.
I
can click just one or two.
Yeah, shows a few. Yeah.
Click on and off just like that. And it's pretty simple. Some of them are not even masked. Some of them are, I think they're just in like lighten mode, because, the background is dark and butterflies are bright. So the lighten mode works really good here. And the final folder, final group is effects, just some color effects, some contrast, brightening my face. I like using channel mixture to create this kind of like contrast, color contrast, some shadowing, and film grain on top. Yeah, that was if you zoom in, yeah, that's the film grain on top of everything. I still like adding film grain.
Yeah, that's so good. Loving seeing you build that image up, and man, actually, yeah, I'm rethinking about my thoughts about that image already, and having now seen you break that image down and showcase just what it takes. I love the fact that you photographed the butterflies in the scene. It just seems, in my mind, so much easier now that I've seen that. That's way better than photoshopping it in. So thanks for sharing that. Did you have another one you wanted to share?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, you don't have to jump to it now. If you had, if you had a comment there, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to say, I forgot what I wanted to say. Okay. That you, as you saw, I still do a lot of retouching.
Yeah.
Like there's like 60 layers over there.
So much.
Especially because I have a good habit of making my editing as non-destructive as possible. That's why I do everything on separate layer, and then there's layers. But at the same time, probably half of the work, as you saw, was made in camera. Like, yeah, I mean, not in camera, but on set design.
Yeah, I love how much of it was done on set rather than stock or anything like that. Just absolutely love it. Gary made a comment that says, how big is your storage room to hold all your used and going to be used props?
It's not that big. Like, I don't know if you can see. No, you cannot see. But behind me, there's the door over there. Yeah. So that's the closet. And that's the only closet that I have that is full with props and lighting equipment.
Skeletons,
like
and
strobes and stands.
Do you still have the skeleton?
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I returned it.
Yeah, lots of great comments about that, folks. If
you I wish I kept it. Yeah. I wish I kept it. I would have a skeleton in my closet.
That's true. Yeah, we all have some of those. Yeah, if you love seeing that image, give give a thumbs up. Let Anya know you like that image. Connor McNeil, another great SmugMug ambassador of ours, great landscape photographer, travel photographer. That was a fascinating insight into your approach to editing. So yeah, thanks,
Thank you
Connor.
so
Thanks for
much.
joining us today. Why don't we do?
I guess that's why I'm a retoucher.
Why don't we do one more kind of quickly, and then I'm conscious of the time today. So let's find one more image. Folk have really enjoyed seeing you break down the images.
I have a few options. So this one is like a composite. Like I use stock photography for that. This one was with a real fennec fox. So I don't know. I would love to hear what people would love to see, like which one.
Okay. Well, we have.
Or maybe, sorry, you have a preference.
Well, we'll see. There's about a 30-second delay in the questions feed coming, so we're not going to get an answer. We're not going to get an answer straight away.
Okay.
So why don't you choose one of yours that you like and that you can remember the file structure for maybe.
Yeah. Okay, let's do this one.
We'll kill time while that massive file loads up on your system. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. We just got some shout outs for the fox. So sorry for those of you that said moon on the chain, but I think the fox is going to win. So sorry, Gary, but
all right.
Yeah, William DeLonge says the fox. Michael says the fox. Yeah. Sorry.
It's already opened.
Sorry, Gary. No chain. Oh, he says the fox. Right. Okay. We're doing the fox. Great.
Okay. So again, this is already processed in Lightroom, so it has some color grading, color correction. But this is the before. So we actually had a fennec fox. It's alive. It's fine. It's okay. It's sleeping. it fell asleep and cozy on her shoulder. It was shot in Moscow in 2014. So you actually can rent an animal from people who have like tamed wildlife,
right?
Kind of like in their homes. But yeah, you can rent an owl or a fennec fox, or I know a woman who have a bear, like an actual tamed bear that is crazy popular on the internet. Everybody wants a photo shoot with him.
I bet.
So yeah, you can shoot anything in Russia.
So is that a leash?
All right.
Is that a leash we see on the fox? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Pet fox. Let's take the fox for a walk.
Well, I mean, it's like taking a cat for a walk. You need to have it on leash.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started with transforming the surroundings to create the square format. I stretched the top, and I also love this technique to create this kind of like surreal effect to the image, because it distorts the background, and I love how it looks. Some liquefying, like giving a little bit more, giving a better shape to her hair, and some retouching. So I removed the leash. I removed some of the bright spots that were very distracting on the background. Some retouching a little bit more. I removed some flyaways. I made her freckles stand out more. A little bit of color to the fox to make it a little bit prettier. Dodging burning. I also felt like, let me open the groups, just the layers. And I also felt like the left side of the frame is a little bit of balanced. Like composition wise, you have a center of the frame and you have two sides, and if you imagine it as a weight, you have right and left side, and it needs to be balanced, meaning that I have a lot of things going on and a lot of elements on the right side, but nothing on the left side, and it's unbalanced right now. So to fix that, I add 2 branches from the other photographs that I shot that day, in the same spot with the same weather conditions. So I added light beam in screen mode, just filled with color, blurred, put in the screen mode, and a little opacity. I added fireflies, which again was super easy. I just took a brush, a soft round brush with different size, a different blur, and created just little clicks, and that's it. That's how I created fireflies. And some color effects: gradient map, channel mixer, curves, vignette, and that's it.
That is superb. I love that image, and it's great to see the work, that how it started and where it ended up. I love the balancing of both sides. I think that's been really important to this image. When you see it without those extra limbs, it really is.
If you turn them off, it really
yeah.
feels like she's falling that way.
Very important piece of the concept of those extra branches and limbs. Superb. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
I know everybody will be thrilled to have had that little peek behind the curtain of what how the images are built up and how they're made. Anya, thank you so much for spending the time today. Give us an insight into your work, giving an insight to your life as a creative. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for the great questions. Hopefully we got to most of them. Please do me a huge favour, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, but more importantly, head over to Flickr. Check out Anya's work on her Flickr page, where Anya has also started posting behind the scenes videos of each of the concepts for 2.5 seconds. Is that right? You have behind the scenes.
I posted just one for now, but we'll see. Yeah, each concept has its own behind the scenes video, which is now only on YouTube and Instagram, I think.
Right.
But
adding them to Flickr as well. That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's been an absolute blast. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. All the details to find Anya and follow her will be in the description to this video. So go check out Anya's work, go subscribe to her, share the love, give Anya lots of love, and thank you so much for joining us. Anya, stay safe, look after yourself. Hopefully we'll get to see each other very soon.
You too.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. For everybody else, stay safe, be kind, look after each other, and we'll see you back here for another episode of SmugMug Live very soon. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye. Bye.